So a couple of videos ago I talked about this hard drive I pulled out of the dumpster, along with some other stuff including a broken laptop. Some people were like, dude, why do you take things from the trash? Can't you afford to buy a freaking hard drive or something? And it's not that I can't afford to buy new things, it's also not just about not being wasteful or saving the environment. I honestly just like tinkering with all electronics and featuring them on my channel. So I finally got to this hard drive, and my initial idea was just to test it out to see if it works, see what's on there, reformat it, and use it in one of my future projects. But in the process, I found that the previous owner didn't wipe the drive, and not only that, but they left a bunch of saved passwords and login information in their browser. In my view, that was pretty terrible and unsafe, and I thought I'd make a video with a message about how important it is to properly dispose of hard drives. I assumed people would appreciate a heads up, but boy was I ever wrong. People got so angry over so many things that I was just blown away. So I wanted to make a follow-up video showcasing some of your comments. I've grouped them all in several categories and I'll try addressing them. And afterwards I'll tell you what happened to this thing since the last video. So let us get comfortable and enjoy reading some of your hate comments along with some constructive criticism. Hope you guys enjoy. Let's start with the first thing that seemed to piss people off, and that's the clickbaity title. What's funny is that while some people thought what happened in the video was awful and illegal, others thought it wasn't anything to get excited about, and I've totally tricked them into clicking on the video. So let me just say that while I do understand why some people got upset, I genuinely stand behind the fact that what I found on the hard drive really is frightening and potentially could bring horrible consequences. But I do agree the title is a bit over the top perhaps, although I now completely understand why YouTubers do this. I mean, this video alone got more views than my previous 7 videos combined, and it's my third most viewed video to date. And I totally get the incentive creators have to make these stupid, god-awful thumbnails, although I really hope I don't ever stoop so low, no matter how much views they can bring in. But you know what? It's also all entirely your fault. If you would just not click on the stupid clickbaity video, but instead choose to watch something less shocking and more down-to-earth, like my other videos, we wouldn't have this issue now, would we? But no, you want to watch the potentially illegal discoveries on a hard drive. On to the next thing people took issue with, and that's the fact that I've used a real computer to test out this potentially malware-infected and dangerous drive. And that's a fair point, and I'll say it myself, don't ever use your computer to test out unknown drives, but these computers are my scrap boxes I keep around, and there are no important or personal files that could be affected by anything that's on this drive. I've gotten a lot of comments about using VMs, and that's totally legitimate, although virtual machines are also not always foolproof, and I just wanted to use the real hardware for this occasion. Also, lots of people commented on why I wasn't able to boot it from the first computer, and it most likely has to do with the fact that this thing had a Windows 11 installation, which had an incompatible UEFI and wouldn't boot from such an old machine. Even though this thing really wasn't as old as some people might think. It's from circa 2014, so only around 10 years old. And the reason I chose it is because it came to me with a Windows 10 installation and I thought it would be appropriate. Also, people pointed out that the enclosure this thing had on it likely came from a Dell Optiplex, which was useful to know. I never actually had one of those, so thanks for the heads up. But let's not beat around the bush. The main thing people were upset about was me going through this guy's stuff and snooping around. I mean, people called me immoral, bastard, privacy-intruding son of a bitch, and also told me I ought to face charges and be locked up for what I did to the guy. They also said how fake my reactions were and how much pleasure I took from snooping around this guy's data and personal information. And there are just a couple of things I'd like to say. First off, I do understand why people would react the way they did. I mean, they don't know who I am and what my intentions were. Perhaps I wasn't clear enough about it in the video, nor did they watch the previous one. When I do these videos on older computers, I really like seeing what's on them because it can be such a time capsule seeing the old applications, multimedia, games, and other software. Especially if it's from the late 90s, early 2000s, because that's when I first started really using the computers as a teen. And I do often run across some documents containing personal data, but I of course never show those in my videos. The thing is, this hard drive had a pretty new installation of Windows, and this was my first time encountering current login information that could really potentially hurt someone. I feel like what really triggered people the most was the fact that when I saw that this thing had saved login information, I went ahead and actually used it to log in into this guy's Gmail and Instagram account. And people said that that was totally inappropriate, out of line, and it proves that that I was out to get this guy's information and misuse it, and that I was totally faking my disbelief and horror. And I'll be the first to admit, after thinking about it for a while, that yes, I do feel like that wasn't an appropriate thing to do, but I'll tell you what, I did it, and even showed myself doing it on camera. Since this Windows installation was in no way password protected, I was certain there had to be some other security measures stopping me from being able to access this guy's account from a different IP address and from a different hardware. Like, I expected to see some sort of a two-factor authentication message or some other means of verifying that I was in fact the owner of this hard drive. And the only way of verifying that was to actually try it out. Worst case scenario, I thought, was for the guy to get a notification on his phone and shit his pants. But nope, there wasn't anything stopping me from accessing the account using the login info left behind, and that's what made it terrifying and worth making a video about, just warning people to not ever do that. People went on to hate me for the fact that I was scrolling through this stuff, but just think about it for a freaking second. Scrolling actually makes it harder to read what's on the freaking page. And it was just a natural instinct I had. It had nothing to do with me being interested in snooping around this guy's data, but I'm sure people are still not going to believe me, and that's entirely on me. As I've said, I shouldn't have done it, but hopefully some of you can at least appreciate why I did it. A few people also had comments about not blurring the video enough or saying that it could be AI reversed or something. Yeah, you have no idea what you're talking about. There are resources that can help you unblur pictures or text, but for that to be possible, you have to have a somewhat legible image to begin with, and that wasn't happening with what I showed on the screen. Here, I'll show you if you don't believe me. Yeah, that's pretty awesome, right? And even if you were somehow able to process these images into legible text, I didn't reveal any passwords or anything that could enable you to violate this guy's security. So you'd just be limited to what's shown on the screen, which wasn't of any use to a potential hacker, because other than logging in, I haven't actually opened any mail or messages or anything really. Also, a few people criticized me for talking about protecting your data while at the same time showing my neighborhood and my basement or something. And even though I do try to be cautious as a person who puts up content on the internet, I really don't want to turn paranoid. Like, I don't want to not be able to show my surroundings. I don't want to sweat over showing my apartment building. I'm not the freaking president. And if anybody wanted to break in, I'm very sure they could do so without watching my videos. But to be honest, what incentive do they have to break in my basement shed? I mean, it's mostly junk. There's really nothing of monetary value down there, even though I would be very sad to see that go. But I'm not really worried about that happening for several reasons, which I'm not going to discuss, but most of them have to do with where I live. And I feel like most people presenting all these theories in the comments come from places where robberies are far more common, and also where the legal system is, I guess, much different. I mean, the amount of people telling me that I straight up committed a felony or that I should face charges for, I don't even know what. I mean, it's just mind-boggling. So first off, no, I don't live in the States, and the laws that apply to you might not apply to everyone else. I was so annoyed by some of the statements that I actually went out and looked through some of the laws that could apply to what I just did, and it was probably the worst use of my time, but the best I can tell is I actually broke no domestic laws, and there is nothing illegal about what I did. Most laws here actually apply to businesses and legal entities in regards to them protecting the data they collect. But if you in your country have a law that could put a person in jail for accessing someone else's account on a drive or a device they found on the streets, I mean, that's just plain dumb. What if you found a lost phone or a computer that had no immediate way of identifying to whom it belongs to, and you went to their social media or some other account to check for their info to give the phone back to the owner? Are you telling me you could be sued for that? In fact, don't tell me. I really don't want to start another legal battle in the comment section. In any case, even if what I did wasn't technically legal, even though by all accounts I don't think it was illegal, me getting into trouble assumes that someone was to take legal action against me. And I think this is really where I guess my American audience went a little overboard. I mean, perhaps I'm wrong, I'm just going by my YouTube statistics, but most of the people giving me legal advice seem to be from the States. And I could be wrong, but I guess people there, they just sue people left and right when their legal rights are endangered or something. But that's really not what happens here where I live, which is not to say that it couldn't happen to me. I'm just saying that legal action for sure isn't as common here, and people don't go crying to their lawyers nearly as often. I'm not saying that's better or worse, I'm just stating the facts. People were like, dude, you should really talk to your lawyer about this. Like, yeah, right, like I have one. So people were like, but what if it's stolen? What if it's discarded evidence from a crime scene? What if the guy's dead? What if you get mixed up in a crime case and that hard drive leads police to you? I mean, some people just totally went absolute bananas with the conspiracy theories on this video. It's just incredible. But then I started overthinking it, like, what if the thing really is stolen? I mean, I just thought someone dumped this stuff because I found it with a whole bunch of crap, so it just looked like someone was cleaning out his attic. But I started having this weird gut feeling, like, what if it really was stolen? How could I be certain that it was just someone's trash? What if the guy really needs this hard drive, even though there didn't seem to be any important files on it? So I gave it a few days, and even though that wasn't my initial idea really, I finally decided to try to get in contact with the owner using the information I had from the Google Chrome profile. I of course made a burner Gmail account, and I've sent him a couple of messages. I've said something along the lines of, "Hi, I wasn't sure how to handle this situation, but I've decided to get in touch with you after finding an old hard drive along with some other electronic junk in my local dumpster. Since I'm into repairing all the electronics, I've decided to test the drive and see whether or not it was working. And upon testing it, I found that the drive wasn't wiped and also had an unprotected Windows installation with a lot of personal info still present. I wiped the drive, but I was still worried whether the drive was perhaps stolen and dumped or it was just thrown in the trash. Because if that's the case, I just wanted to give you a heads up about how dangerous this can be. There are people hunting for old drives, and there's no telling what they would have done if they had gotten their hands on this drive. I would appreciate if you'd respond to this email, and also as a precaution, change all the passwords for online services you might use, especially if the drive was stolen from you. If it indeed was, I'd be happy to give it back to you along with everything I found." There were some other things that I've said, but that was basically it. So I've sent the email and initially got no response, but a couple of days later, the guy actually responded. And what he said in his response will absolutely shock you. Was it stolen? Was he dead? Was he threatening to come to my place and steal all the crap from my basement? Was he going to sue me? How did it all end up in the trash? Yeah, he just threw it out while cleaning out his house. So after all that, after all I've been through with the freaking comments, it all went down exactly as I've described. Since you guys were so upset about privacy in my last video, I'm not going to share any information about the conversation we had, but I will say that I've given back the hard drive, and yes, he was indeed shitting his pants and definitely learned his lesson. But it was so unnecessary. I could have just wiped the drive and not make a big deal out of it like I planned, but no, I had to listen to all the people in the YouTube comment section. I'm actually kinda glad, because at least I'll be able to sleep now, knowing that it wasn't anything worse. And also I had a really nice time talking to the guy, and let's just say this might not be the last time you hear about him on this channel. Oh yeah, and all that other crap was also his, including the laptop, but he didn't want any of that back. So anyway, that's the story of this hard drive. What a freaking roller coaster, for me anyway. But the whole thing left a weird taste in my mouth, even though the video did really good and overall had a very positive impact on my channel. So I don't think I'll do any more like strict hard drive videos, although I have a lot of fun going through old time capsules like that iMac I featured in a previous video. That was a ton of fun to explore. I guess I'll limit myself to older equipment. Anyway, if you do like exploring old computers, there's a lot of that here on my channel. I do videos on hardware, new and old. I do repairs, overviews, all sorts of stuff, twice a week. You can also follow me on Patreon if you'd like to chat or have early access to my videos. One is probably already up waiting for you. You can join for as little as $1 a month or more if you'd like. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.